Welcome, everybody, to an emergency Blue Jay Center podcast brought to you by the Sick Podcast Network. I'm James Price. We're up until I'm on Cole Whiston. Boys, oh yeah, Christmas may be a month away, but it came early for Blue Jay fans. Don't know what I'm talking about? First off, where the hell you been? And we'll talk to you about it right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Blue Jays Center.
Bautista drives it deep left field, gone!
The sickest Toronto Blue Jays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Christmas came early for one MLB team, and it's not the Dodgers. It's not the Yankees. It's not Steve Cohen and the New York Mets. No, it's your damn Toronto Blue Jays as they sign Dylan Cease to a 7-year, $210 million contract before the winter meetings. It's all over the place. It's bedlam. No one saw this coming. Boys, how we doing? Cole, let us start, buddy. What do you got for me?
We're getting greedy, boys. We're getting freaking greedy. Eggnog and rum. Hey. Cheers to Merry Christmas to us and Happy Thanksgiving to the Americans, because the best American free agent pitcher is coming north to Toronto because we got Dylan Cease, baby. Let's go. In honor of American Thanksgiving tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. We got Dylan Cease. Thank you very much.
How we doing, Berto? How we feeling?
Oh, man. I mean, I'll be honest. I think I kind of spoke this into existence, boys, and I'll explain why. Today was sort of a chill evening. Didn't have class. My class got canceled. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll be productive. I'll go to the gym today. And after I got back, I decided to throw this puppy on, which, by the way, I only ever wear this shirt when we do a podcast. And obviously at that time, I had no idea we would record.
Wow.
And somehow, some way, literally an hour later, not even an hour, probably like 30, 40 some minutes later, I'm sitting on the couch and all of a sudden I see Professor's notification the Blue Jays signed Dylan Cease.
I love it.
I think to me there's some external forces going on here, boys. It's eerily, but I love it. I love the way it worked out. Dylan Cease, Toronto Blue Jay. I mentioned our last podcast. I can't remember when we did it. A couple weeks ago? I mentioned he was my preferred guy. You have to go out there and shop in this side of the aisle, the elite tier of starting pitcher. And the Blue Jays just landed, like you mentioned, before the winter meetings, before American Thanksgiving, they landed arguably the best free agent pitcher on the market, certainly a guy in the top tier. You can't be anything but elated with this news this evening.
I thought you were going to also mention the fact that you literally this afternoon sent me an MLB post ranking the top 5 starting pitchers available, and you said if we don't get one of these guys, this is a failure. Also, shout out to Berto. Not only has he gotten Dylan Cease correct, he also, for people we weren't doing the Sick Podcast at the time, so the Sick Podcast listeners don't know this, but he also got the Jose Barrios move before anybody was really hopping on that bandwagon. So grabbing starting pitching has been actually Berto's number one attribute. And yeah, Dylan Cease coming up north. He is one of the best free agent pitchers available. In less than a month after we had the most devastating loss in the history of Toronto sports, we have solidified our rotation. Solidified. Shane Bieber opted back in, and now we signed a front end of the rotation guy. So the rotation's done, and we're not even a month post World Series loss.
And that's the funniest thing of this whole thing is that, we talked in the last pod. We're like, okay, Bieber's back, but the wounds are still there, and they still hurt. And Rob, like you mentioned, you wore your shirt today. The bomber jacket that we got, I had that thing been put away for a little bit. But just this, just this past weekend, I brought it back out because I'm like, okay, we're feeling all right now. It's that time. Let's get her going. And vibes are back. Like, I know we lost the World Series. I get it. We're hurting still. We will always hurt. We talked about it. We'll always hurt until you win the damn thing. That will haunt you. But the vibes are very high. Yeah, we are back.
Yeah, this is like also. I think. Sorry, your note off the top, James. I don't think should be understated. The fact that the biggest free agency so far, a month out, has belonged to the Toronto Blue Jays is literally an area we are completely unfamiliar with. Like, having this impact this early in free agency is something that we are not familiar with at all.
And I think also, too, the fact that, like you mentioned, they're the ones that set the tone for the free agent market. We've always seen sort of the Blue Jays be interested in guys, but ultimately It's very difficult for an MLB free agent, one of the caliber of Dylan Cease, to sign in November, and that's just because you have a whole winter to sort of field offers and negotiate. And Dylan Cease, he knows, I'm sure his agent knew, he's at the top of the market. There's no incentive to hop on a deal right away. There's going to be offers at his mailbox all winter long, and the fact that he was willing to forego what is multiple months now before spring training because he got a deal he liked. He got a dollar amount that he liked, obviously, which is the most important thing. I listened to your podcast you guys did with Keegan. We can all talk about winning and Toronto and all that great stuff, but ultimately the money is the number one factor. So that's obviously a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the fact that he was willing to sign this contract, what was a pretty market value deal. We'll talk about the deal specifically in a bit, but I think the fact that he was willing to accept this deal, to forego free agency, and basically lock down this contract with the Blue Jays, be a Blue Jay for the rest of his prime, that to me that tells you about what free agents feel about the Toronto Blue Jays and the proposition they have. They're buying what this front office is selling, and right now Dylan Cease, with the deferrals included, the biggest free agent starting pitching contract in the history of the franchise, second biggest behind, of course, Vlad. It's just an amazing day.
Yeah,
the highest paid free agent signing in team history. Obviously, George Springer, right? So that's another thing as well.
Yeah.
And it's Dylan Cease. And I want to get your guys' takes on this because a lot of people, the social media is a cesspool. We all know that stuff. And there's been a lot of positives, and then you get those negative guys. So I swear, just do it just to be different. Yeah. But a lot of talk is, okay, well, what are you getting in Dylan Cease, right? People who love looking at the raw stuff. You love looking at the ERA numbers, and it's kind of all over the place. Last year at a 4.55 ERA and 168 innings. 2 years before that with the White Sox, but a 4.58 ERA in 177 innings. Now, that's not the greatest. However, for God's sakes, the 5 straight years of over 200 punch-outs is ridiculous. So, Rob, I know you both have looked at the Savant page and see all the glaring red, and you're like, ooh, okay. Give those fans right now, the guys that are just freaking out about ERA and freaking out about the dollar amount and the AAV and all that stuff, and think it's a bad take, bad signing by the Blue Jays. Talk those guys off the ledge for me.
Absolutely. So twofold. One, obviously the ERA, that's sort of the biggest pitcher stat that, everyone is sort of accustomed to. But I will tell you, his ERA this past season, I believe it was 4.55. His expected ERA was over a full run lower. It was 3.46, which, by the way, expected ERA and the Baseball Savant page, the raw numbers are a descriptive stat. They tell you what happened. Whereas I think the most important, and this goes not just with team building, but in every aspect of life, is what can you extract to make this predictive? Expected ERA, Baseball Savant page, obviously average fastball velo, near the top of the league, elite. Swing and miss stuff, near the top of the league, elite. That stuff is predictive. It's what you can expect moving forward. I think that tells you a lot more about what's going to happen rather than what actually did happen. So from that aspect, Dylan Cease is really good. There's a reason why he was considered the top of the class for Asian-wise, among those guys with the Ranger Suarez and the Saya Amai of the world. So, yeah, I think that GMs, they definitely look a little bit more critically over the 4.55 ERA. They understand how flawed that could be. So, yeah, I think if you're a Blue Jays fan, I would put very little substance to that 4.55 ERA. I think that under the hood, projecting stuff, he's projected to be a lot better than that. And you should expect a much better pitcher. But even so, even his last season, how all of you guys know how much I love WAR. In 5 years as a starting pitcher, a full-time starting pitcher, Dylan Cease, since 2021, from 2021 until now, he's accumulated over 20 wins above replacement in that time. That's an average of about just over 4 wins above replacement a year, which his lowest this season was 3.4. That was the lowest in that stretch. So not only is the upside super high with Dylan Cease, but you also have a very high floor. You're going to get a guy who seemingly at his worst is going to give you 3.5 wins, which, I mean, if that's their floor, you're talking elite company right there. So from that aspect, you should relax, still look at the raw numbers. I think that there's a lot more that goes to it. Second of all, we've talked a lot about how the Blue Jays need to be shopping in the big boy aisle. And this is what it is. This is what it means to be shopping in the big boy aisle. Yeah, I'll be honest. 7 years makes you kind of squirm. Age 36, 37 season, that makes you kind of squirm. But this is what it is. This is what baseball contracts have always been. It's not about getting guys on good value. It's about getting the deal done. So willing to go that extra year. George Springer would not have been a Blue Jay if the Blue Jays didn't give that extra year in 2020. And obviously, we know what that means. Kevin Gausman, probably similar too. This is what it means to be shopping at the big boy table. You make deals that maybe you're a little uncomfortable with at the end, but at the end of the day, you gotta take a risk. This is a calculated risk. This is a very high upside play. I think if you're a Blue Jays fan disappointed with this contract, which I don't think there's many people are, I think there's always going to be those one-off trolls. Check yourself, man, because this is a great move for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, I could not agree more, and I'll piggyback off of basically everything Rob said. So first, I will start with the contract because I think that we've established that that's the number one complaint from Twitter, and not that Twitter should be considered a credible source for any actual reactions, but nonetheless, that's the reaction that a lot of people are going to see. So in terms of the contract, yeah, he currently will now be, in terms of AAV, and I'm talking about actual AAV, not just not including the deferrals, which there are deferrals in this contract, but that's really, in my opinion, not important right now. So let's say it's $30 million a year. That makes him the 7th highest paid starting pitcher right now. But let's remember that this is only a quote unquote overpay if Ranger Suarez signs for the same amount of money, if Michael King signs for cheaper money, if Amai goes for half the money. There's so many good starting pitchers that all these fans on Twitter that think this is an overpay are gonna have to wait and see what those contracts look like, and in all likelihood, because the Jays have now set the market, those are going to be higher than us, and by the end of this, Dylan Cease will be a bottom or a top 15 starting pitcher in terms of AAV. Here's the other thing. Tarek Skubal's up for free agency in 2 years. I promise you his AAV is starting with a 4. Promise you. No questions asked. It's going to start with a 4.
Is it next offseason?
It's next offseason.
Is it next offseason?
Yeah.
This is last year on the deal?
I believe so, yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, anyway, so even better. A year from today, Tarek Skubal is going to sign for $40 million a year. And it's in the contract in total is probably going to start with a 3 or a 4 from a total value standpoint. So that's what we have to remember. This is how free agency works. The market gets reset every single year. And the Jays decided to set the market this year, and $30 million for a guy like Dylan Cease is not that much money at all. Here's the other. Kevin Gausman, we've loved in his Toronto Blue Jay tenure. Any Blue Jays fan, I would be shocked if you disagree with that, except for that one that was on one of our postgame shows. Anyways, Kevin Gausman over the last 4 years as a Toronto Blue Jay averages a 4.5 WAR. Dylan Cease, as Rob mentioned, over the last 5 years, his only time as a full-time starting pitcher, averages a 4.1 WAR. And I'm talking about Fangraphs WAR, which Rob and I agree that after multiple deliberations off screen, we've agreed that the Fangraphs WAR is the one that we decided is the most respected.
Definitely the most reliable, yeah.
Most reliable. It paints the best pitcher, and that's obviously not that big of a gap. 0.4 of a WAR between a guy that we know we like and a guy that we were like, No, you have to like Dylan Cease. 200 strikeouts every single year. The expected ERA, not only was it a full run lower last year than what his actual ERA was, that's basically what his expected ERA has been every year, if not better the last 5 years. Yep. Dylan Cease, at his floor, has an expected ERA basically of 3.5. You will take that guy at $30 million a year every single year. Yep. Rob mentioned Kevin Gausman and George Springer needing the extra year to be a Toronto Blue Jay. Let's remind everybody, if they didn't get the extra year, Kevin Gausman and George Springer are free agents right now. They are free agents today. So, and obviously no Blue Jays fan would have wanted that. No Blue Jays fan would want Kevin Gausman gone after this year. No Blue Jays fan would want George Springer gone after this year. So that's also what the extra year could mean when you eventually get there. And Rob said age 36, age 37. It is age 36. Period. Full stop. It'll be age 36. Next year is his age 30 season. Project 7 years out. That's age 36 for 7 seasons. So age 36 for a starting pitcher, getting paid $30 million. When at that point in 6 years or in 7 years time, the market is going to be $50 million for a starting pitcher at the top end, and Dylan Cease is going to be your number 4 starter. I don't even think the contract's going to age poorly. Maybe because of the deferrals, it might. But again, I don't think that that's relevant. And as long as, and we've stated this point over and over and over again, as long as spending this money doesn't hinder you elsewhere, No, but the money doesn't matter. And for Rodgers, it shouldn't matter.
No,
it really doesn't matter. I mean, you look at expanding the payroll that they've done in the last few years, and now all of a sudden you make the World Series and are so close to winning it. I think we all sort of knew that. Well, not sort of knew, but we could project that they were going to spend some money this offseason. They were going to spend some serious money. There's a lot of buzz from a lot of people within the industry. They are very active, both in terms of primarily the free agency, because that's where their financial muscle can get flexed the most. I think that this is where we're seeing the remnants of it, right? Like you're signing a top of the market starting pitcher. You're offering him over 200 million. This is what sitting at the big boy table is, like I just said earlier, right? So this is what you wanted from the Toronto Blue Jays. You wanted them to go out there and be aggressive, be the top dog, be one of the top dogs. And right now they're proving like they're one of the top dogs with signing this contract to Dylan Cease. I think that like every contract, we just have to accept the fact that there's always going to be inherent risk. That's what free agency is. But if you don't like risk, go be, a Baltimore Orioles fan who played it safe and now they're the bottom barrel in that division, right? Like how often did we talk about the Orioles in the last 2 years, how they've lapped the Blue Jays and what position they're in, and right now they're in the basement. And they're never going to get out of it. Not in this division with all these top dogs, right? This is what you want. You want your team to take risks. You want your team to go out there and splash the cash. And the Blue Jays have done that. How many times have we wanted the Blue Jays to go out and give 200 million to a starting pitcher? I remember, and I mentioned this on this podcast before. Pricey, you remember the days where the conversation was, oh, will they give that 5th year to Irvin Santana and get him? Will that be the biggest free agent signing? CJ Wilson, I remember after 2011, and he signed with the Angels, and we were all very upset because that was a legitimate target. We were a long way away from now, and now we're complaining about 7-year, $200 million deals. It just goes to show the leaps and boundaries that this franchise and this organization has taken. The health of this franchise really could not be in a better spot right now. And if they don't win a World Series in the next few years, it certainly won't be from the ownership being all in.
Yeah, no, one thing I want to say is I believe a lot of the fans that are getting upset with the money are a lot of hockey fans that are watching players leave the country.
Salary cap, right? Salary caps,
right? Because it's not about how good a player is; it's how good are you to how much you're making. And in baseball, when you can bring out the money bags and just dish out whatever, it don't matter what you're making. You go out there and perform, he can be making $1 billion for all I care. He goes out there and throws a 7-inning shutout in a World Series game. I don't care how much he's making. Yeah. So, baseball is that beautiful thing, especially for a team with an organization that's willing to spend a bazillion amount of dollars. It's great. It's fun. Hey, hopefully there's no lockout, and hopefully we don't get screwed up by some salary cap. Touch wood. But I will say, last thing, Cole, before you get jumping in. The word deferrals was something that Dodger fans were hearing a lot of a few years ago, and every sports fan, every baseball fan is just banging their head against the wall. We're like, why isn't nobody else doing this? Well, the Blue Jays are like, oh, we're going to start doing this. They did it with Tony last year, and they did it again this year. Cole, you said $30 million to the contract. Well, the expected AAV is $26 million, with the rest being deferrals for Dylan Cease throughout his contract. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, Dodgers fans, don't flinch at this contract. They don't even blink an eye. They're like, oh, we got Dylan Cease. That's sick. Like, that is what it means to be a guy at the big boy table. It's, you don't flinch when your team spends $30 million in AAV. You don't flinch at all. And the extra year, I think, is where people are probably actually focusing on. I don't think $30 million is getting necessarily where they're actually hooked up on. But, again, an age 36 starting pitcher making $30 million. So what if you get 5 years of, a 1.10 ERA plus, which is what Dylan Cease average is in his career, is a 1.10 ERA plus. And if you only use the last 4 years for Dylan Cease, his ERA plus is actually 1.14. Kevin Gausman's is 1.19. So again, comparing him to our current ace, Dylan Cease is just a touch below that. You will happily take that. And obviously he's 29 years old. Obviously going to be age 30 when the season rolls around, but you will take that at age 30 years old. And we haven't even mentioned this. So the reason why Rob was so adamant that we have to get one of these front end rotation guys in this free agency is because after this year, we didn't have anybody. We had two guys. We literally had two guys locked up after this year. It was Jose Barrios, who God knows, and then
he has an opt out. He's got an opt-out.
And he has an opt-out. And Trey Savage, which God knows. So now your rotation, at the very least, ideally, hopefully, assuming that Jose Barrios isn't going to find more money elsewhere, he will probably opt into the contract, and Jose Barrios, Trey Savage, and Dylan Cease are now your starting pitchers. The only starting pitchers currently locked up for 2027. So that's the other reason that we haven't even touched on so far in this podcast, that you had to get a guy. You had no choice but to get a guy this offseason, or else you were going to be trying to build an entire rotation a year from now.
Let me ask you guys this, and I know it's not over-under season, we're a long way from that, but we mentioned the 20 the WAR number. Mm-hmm. If you could guarantee 20 WAR for the rest of this contract, for the 7 years of this contract, would you take it right now, or would you roll the dice? So 20 WAR, we're looking at about just under 3 wins above replacement a year on average.
Oh, you're saying...
Keeping in mind, though, age 36, age 35 and 36, who knows what you're going to get?
I'd roll the dice.
Yeah, I'd roll the dice.
Roll the dice, okay.
Roll the dice through year one.
I'd roll the dice, because
There you go. There you go. So here's the thing: 182 million, which is what the actual value is, present value without deferrals. I mean, if you value a WAR at, let's say, $8 million a year, which is, I don't want to do all the nerdy math, but it's about 23 WAR. That would be a great value on that contract. So the fact that we're willing to roll the dice at 20, that just shows that it's a good value contract.
Yeah,
it absolutely is. And so, it's like, I got to jump on this for a second, guys. Yeah. I mean, Cole, you were reaming off the names, and I'm looking at this rotation right now, and it's got to be one of the, if not the best in baseball. Like you can put the Dodgers right there. Obviously, their rotation is filthy. You can look at the Yankees getting Garrett Cole back as another thing there. But the Jays now have Dylan Cease, Kevin Gausman, Shane Bieber, Trey Savage, and by the way, your number 5 starter is Jose Barrios, who, as we've seen before now, have a bad year and continue to find a way to bounce back the next.
Yeah. But maybe if you're not asking Jose Barrios to pitch 200 innings, he might be a little bit better. Yeah.
Here's the thing. We were disappointed by Jose Barrios last year, but if Jose Barrios gives you exactly what he gave you last year as a 5th starter, you're cool with it.
Yeah,
you're cool with it as a 5th starter.
Yeah, exactly. The problem is that you were relying on him to get you big games.
He started opening day last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Last 2 years.
Yeah. I also don't think people understand that 2 years ago, Dylan Cease put up a 1.18 ERA plus in one of the toughest divisions in baseball. Him playing for the Padres against the Dodgers, the Giants, and those likes, that's not easy. Playing against the super team that is the LA Dodgers, whatever it was, 19 times a year, which is what they did. So obviously he's making at least 2 starts against them a year, if not 3 starts against them each year. So that's not a hard thing to do, or not an easy thing to do. Here's the other thing. In the last 4 years, Dylan Cease has finished top 4 in Cy Young voting twice. Mm-hmm. And it's been every other year, which, history suggests he's due for a top 4 finish in Cy Young voting come this year. So
here's the thing. Another thing, too, that's also really underrated about this contract that I haven't seen anyone bring it up yet. We talked about Jose Barrios being the Iron Man. Dylan Cease is an Iron Man. I don't think he's missed a start in his whole career. I'm looking at his starts right now. 2020, he made 12 starts. That was the abbreviated season. So obviously he made every start then. 32 and 21. So that's every start. 32 and 22, 33, 33, and 32 last year. So, a guy who's going to be out there and giving you every season 180 plus innings on average, that has a lot of value on its own too. Definitely. So, here you go.
Exactly.
And you guys talked about, going off of that, and I think Cole mentioned earlier that the 5 years that we've been kind of talking about, those are the 5 years that he's been a starter. Right. Let's break down the innings pitched to punch outs, because those are the fun things to look at, right? Yeah. And Rob's talking about all these starts. Well, he hasn't hit the 200 inning mark once. He hasn't hit the 190 inning limit once. His first year in 2021, he had 165 and 2/3 innings. Guess how many strikeouts? Take a guess.
Over 200 for sure.
Well, yeah. We know that, Rob? We know he did that already. But give me a guess.
So Robbie Ray led the AL in strikeouts that year. He had 240, I want to say, so I'll say 220.
226 in 165 innings. Ridiculous. The year after, 2022, he threw 184. How many strikeouts that year?
Let's say 236.
Okay, stay hot. 227, but still freaking good. Year after that, he only pitched 177 innings, but again, still very high. How many we got?
212.
214. Very good, Ryan. Very good. That's pretty good. The year after that,
Price is right. It's now going over.
Keep in mind.
I'm not looking at it. I'm not. I swear, I'm not
he's not
looking at it.
looking at it, but let's keep in mind that he has looked at it today.
Yeah, this guy's got a
No,
photograph.
I looked at the case for 9, but I haven't looked at the raw number for strikeouts.
All right, here we go. 2024. His most innings he's pitched, 189 in a third.
Let's say 229.
224.
Okay.
And the last one, just because this is getting fun, 168 innings. So the lowest since his first year as a starter.
Well, I know he led the league, so this is probably a little bit higher. Let's go 223.
215 last year.
Okay.
Not bad.
But regardless, he has not thrown 190 innings, and his lowest strikeout number is 214 strikeouts.
Yeah,
That's
I'll give you the
absurd.
total. I'll give you the total. He's pitched 884 innings as a full-time starter.
Go for it. Give it to me.
1,100 strikeouts.
Man, it's ridiculous.
1,100 strikeouts, and guess who is right there with him over those 5 years? Kevin Gausman.
Kevin Gausman. I saw that.
They are literally one. They are literally 1 and 2 over the last 5 years in terms of strikeouts.
And this is what I love to see is that you not only do you think about the pitcher and the numbers that we're seeing, he's now coming into the American League East. Well, what's the dominant team that we just talked about? The team with the other great rotation, right? It's the New York Yankees, obviously, right? Yep. What does that lineup do a bazillion times a night?
That's all they do.
Strike out. I mean, look, he does give up some home runs. He had 21 last year, but let's be honest, 21 ain't that bad. Albeit it's at Petco, but considering
home runs per 9 ain't too bad. Ain't too bad the home runs per 9.
No, 21, 18, 19, 16, 20 in his big league in his starts. And Jose Barrios last year had 26. So
yeah.
I'm going to put that into perspective.
So we should obviously mention the things that do hinder Dylan Cease.
Yep.
And walks are the number one thing over his career. Those have literally never been good. But here's the thing about walks, and while he has currently not been able to figure it out, and I'm not saying that it should be expected for him to lower that number coming into Toronto, because sometimes you just can't do it. Sometimes when you throw 97, you give up the accuracy for the velocity, which is at the very core of explaining this to somebody. That happens. That is what pitchers are being taught nowadays. You would rather an extra couple miles on the fastball than to be able to pinpoint corners, because guys are going to swing and miss at 97, even if it's not in the zone. So walks might not get fixed. But on the other side, it's probably the easiest thing to fix. If you're going to fix something in a pitcher who has a number one issue over his entire career, and it's walks, it's command, you could probably figure it out. Look at Aroldis Chapman, for example.
Robbie Ray.
We did it with Robbie Ray. Look at Aroldis Chapman. The guy literally had a career year at age 37 this year because he's like, oh yeah, they just told me to locate my fastball in certain spaces instead of just throwing it down the middle every time. It's like, yeah, you can do that. You're a professional athlete. You're playing the highest level of baseball. You can probably figure out how to throw a couple more strikes here and there. Yeah. So maybe that'll be a focus for Dylan Cease in a full offseason with the Toronto Blue Jays staff. I don't know. I'm just saying that it's a possibility. And if it is, then you can expect a 4-WAR year from Dylan Cease if he lowers the walk rate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not concerned at all about the home runs, if I'm being completely honest. I think that
barrels,
for a guy who throws,
that's what I was going to finish with. Yeah. In his down years, he gives up a lot of barrels, which is no surprise. If you're going to have a down year as a starting pitcher, it almost always is. It's going to be correlated to barrels.
Yep.
So here's the thing too. In a sense, I'm willing to excuse barrels a lot more when you have a guy who throws hard and strikes guys out. Right. And the reason why is because obviously we all know the adage, the harder it comes in, the harder it goes out. So obviously if you're going to throw 97, someone's going to get a piece of it. It's going to go farther than, say, a regular fastball would. So you kind of give and take with that. I think for a guy who throws as hard as he does, the home runs per 9 are actually very respectable. They're actually not bad at all. Barrel rate, I think it's like the 45th percentile, I want to say. So a little bit below league average, but not hideous. It's not as if it was like, like the majority of the Jays rotation this past season, if we're being honest. I think that you have, I can't remember a Blue Jays rotation that was just so balanced in terms of upside, in terms of depth, in terms of guys who can stay healthy. You have guys who can give you look at obviously Cease and Barrios right there, the models of consistency, guys who don't miss starts. Kevin Gausman has been a model of consistency since he became a Blue Jay. He's a guy who makes every start and hasn't really spent a lot of time on the IL. And obviously Shane Bieber, we'll see second year coming off Tommy John, but you're paying him essentially nothing. He's basically playing for free with the contract that he's on.
Yeah.
You expect him to be healthy. Tommy John is not exactly a risk of re-injury type of injury, right? So I think that the Blue Jays You have a lot. You have a lot of upside. You have a high floor.
Nah.
Yeah.
Unless you're Ricky Tiedemann,
Well,
then that arm can't stay
speaking of the Ricky Tiedemans and the Gage Stanifers of the world, now all of a sudden, you have a rotation pretty set up. I mean, you'd want one of those guys to
Yeah,
be
you'll
a
have it set
guy,
up for
but
1
now,
year.
hang on, now maybe maybe you can facilitate a trade a little bit easier now that you have your rotation is a little bit more figured out going forward. So a lot of things came out of this. I think for sure. Not only we'll talk about what comes more after, but I can't remember being this excited about a Blue Jays rotation heading into a season. I think that this is as formidable of a rotation, really, as we've seen in a long, long time here in these parts.
Yeah, I agree. And my final thing on Dylan Cease's Baseball Savant page is that, so even in 2023, when he gave up, or 2024, I should say, when he gave up, a lot of walks, or like the Baseball Savant page suggests that he had a bad walk rate and a bad barrel rate. Oh, but he still put up a 4 WAR and finished top 4 in Cy Young voting. And that's because, and still had a sub 1-1 whip, which for a guy that walks a lot of guys, you would think that the whip would be higher. And the reason why it's not higher is because when you throw that hard and you have that kind of stuff, you're not going to give up a lot of hits. So even if your 1 per inning is a walk, you're not going to give up a lot of hits around that. That's
which is not that high. He doesn't walk 9 for 9, so it's not that bad.
No.
Right, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. You're not going to give up a lot of hits if you can if you have that elite stuff. So the elite stuff allows you to get away with it, and it comes with the territory. It's going to be volatile. The ERA and the walk rate and the barrel rate's going to be volatile year to year. But if you don't give up a lot of hits alongside those things, then it doesn't really matter. If you're giving up solo shots, it doesn't really matter. So that's the great thing about Dylan Cease, and that's what the great thing is about elite stuff, is that you get away with a lot of things when you can just miss bats. And Dylan Cease is one of the best pitchers currently pitching in baseball at doing just that.
Missing bats, it can get you out of so many different issues.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, a prime example for the first time in my Jays fandom that I got to see, other than maybe Roy Halladay, was watching David Price's first start as a Jay and watching him in that outing, the bases loaded, nobody out. And you're like, well, we're screwed. Proceeds to I believe he struck out the next 3 guys to get out of that inning. And that showed me like, holy crap, like this dude's elite. And that's the type of stuff that you can see from a Dylan Cease. He may lose the command for a couple batters, but then he'll lock in and strike out the next 6 in a row. Yeah. And then you'll be like, okay, this guy is freaking good. So that, again, it's a little give and take, but you're getting more than you're giving. Let's just put it that way from Dylan Cease.
Yeah, Trey Savage, same thing. Everybody absolutely fell in love with Trey Savage, and obviously there wasn't a large enough sample to see if he walks a lot of guys, if he gives up a lot of barrels. There wasn't a large enough sample to determine whether or not this is going to be a thing that he has to deal with in his big league career, or a thing that he won't have to deal with in his big league career. But the reason why you fell in love with him is because he missed bats. He struck everybody out, and Dylan Cease does that.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a great point. I think the last thing before we touch on it, fellas, is again, it's the question that I've been seeing online, and it's a question I think we all have at this point. What does a sign like this? Because $210 million ain't nothing to snub your nose at, regardless of deferrals or not.
Yeah.
Yep.
All of our eyes have been on, hey, great, Kyle Tucker, Bo Bichette, we all talked about on the last pod. We want that starting pitcher, and you want that bullpen guy. Phenomenal. Yeah. Great. Starting pitcher, check.
Yeah.
What does this?
Couldn't have had a better starting pitching offseason.
Oh,
you sign a tier 1 free agent, and you bring Shane Bieber back at a pathetic number.
It has gone exactly the way you should have gone to this
A+.
point.
It's an A+ relative to expectations.
100%. And here's the thing, and this is why I think Jays fans and all the media members have immediately shifted to this question, which is, what does this mean? Yep. And it's because, as I said right off the top of the show, we're in uncharted territory. We've never shopped at the big boy table. We've never broken the market. We've never set the market. We've never beat everybody ahead of the market. Yep. This has never happened. So because this has never happened, we don't know what this ownership's going to do going forward. Every move that the Jays make going forward is going to be a new thing that we have never experienced before, which is the great thing about where we're currently at as a franchise, but also the thing that brings up this exact conversation of what the heck's going to happen next. So Rob and I discussed it today, as I've mentioned a few times, and I discussed it with somebody else. Now that you have the starting pitcher locked up, if you get Bo Bichette back or Kyle Tucker, one of the other, not both, and you get a back end of the bullpen guy. Boom, you've had a perfect offseason. That's exactly what you needed to do, and you went and did it. Anything above that is gravy. And from this offseason rumors, and they are just that, just rumors, but nobody has shifted off the idea of re-signing Bo Bichette. That still seems like in all likelihood what's going to happen. But also nobody has shifted off the idea of the Jays getting both, Bo Bichette and Kyle Tucker. Now maybe they will shift after this move actually, finalizes and people wake up tomorrow and start writing new articles and stuff like that. Maybe they'll no longer think that the Jays are going to get Kyle Tucker. But up until today, The Athletic thought that the Athletic literally released an article, and I sent it to the group chat. Every team's number one free agent signing. And the only team that they gave 2 free agents to was the Toronto Blue Jays, and those 2 were Bo Bichette and Kyle Tucker. So for whatever reason, everybody seems to think that Kyle Tucker's headed to Toronto. Whether or not that's true is besides the point. The point is that the Jays have been aggressive this entire offseason from both aspects. Nobody knew about the Dylan Cease news, and the Dylan Cease news just happened. If we get Bo Bichette, we're in on Ketel Marte as well. We're one of the 2 teams in on Ketel Marte. For anybody that's not watching me, I just put up quotation marks because who knows what the heck that means. And maybe the guys that the Jays are maybe the guys that the Jays are publicly involved in, or the guys that the Jays aren't actually involved in at all. And the other thing is we haven't heard a lot on the Bo Bichette side, so maybe that deal is becoming close to getting done as well. So my point is that from all the rumors we've heard, the Jays aren't going to stop at Dylan Cease. And that was never the expectation, but now it's finally got the ball rolling. So we'll see.
What I will say,
I fully expect.
If bottom line, if you get Bo Bichette, you're not getting Ketel Marte, and vice versa. That's just my thought.
That's true. You're not going to get Bo Bichette and Ketel Marte.
Yes,
but Bo Bichette and Kyle Tucker is a relatively realistic possibility if the Jays are just going to go full blown. We're in fucking sayonara to whoever is our outfield depth. You sign Kyle Tucker, you figure it out after that. Maybe that happens. Obviously, none of us expect it to happen, but it seems like other people are at least floating the idea of it happening.
I still very much expect Bo Bichette to resign. I've never moved off that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, though, is that what do you do next becomes very difficult. You have to get pretty creative, I would say, because you have a lot of guaranteed roster spots, and obviously the Anthony Santander contract is the one that sticks out like a sore thumb in terms of just not allowing you a lot of flexibility. But I think to me, I still think, I mean, maybe this is getting greedy, but signing Bo Bichette and then plugging in holes around the roster, like, replacing Ty France with a slightly better right-handed bat, replacing Sir Anthony Dominguez with a slightly better right-handed pitching option, like, that's fine. Those are pretty easy fixes. But the thing is that by signing Bo Bichette and pretty much doing nothing else, that means you're running it back on the offensive side of the ball. And I think, to me, that's a scary proposition still because, well, the offense was great in 2025. It was one of the best in the league. If you look at the Jays World Series lineup they tried out for Game 7 of the World Series, there was one guy in that whole lineup that wasn't on the 2024 Blue Jays, which we all know what they did. The same guys who loved each other and had a great offense. We saw what the other side can look like. And that just goes to show how quickly things can shift one year to another and how you can't expect it to happen, right? Andres Gimenez was the one guy in the lineup, the everyday lineup that wasn't there in 2024. Every other guy was. You look at the bench. I think Ty France and Miles Straw were the other 2 guys. Right. 2 guys who, obviously, Ty France is there to be a pinch hitter, not much else. And Miles Straw and Andres Gimenez were defensive guys, defensive first guys. So not guys you brought in to help with your offense. My point is that you actually got the positive regression year in 2025. You got what you were hoping to get in 2024. But the fact that 2 different years with sort of similar cast of characters can provide so many divergent results, that worries me. That what are you going to get in 2026? And obviously there's talent. You bring back the same team. There's a lot of talent in this lineup. You expect them to be good. But can you replicate that same magic you had in 2025, the offensive lineup? I don't think you can. I don't think you can bank on that.
You can't bank on it. You cannot bank on it.
What do you do? That's the real question. I mean, obviously signing Kyle Tucker is great. Yeah, sign the 2 best offensive bats. Thanks. Other than that, how was the play, Mr. Lincoln? But I'm not sure what else you can really do. You know what I mean? I think that obviously moving Nathan Lucas out for Kyle Tucker is easy, but Yeah, I think that's a real question that this front office is going to have to face.
Well, and
this offseason.
yeah, I mean, we discussed it on one of the previous pods. I still think that Alex Bregman's an option. He's still out there, hasn't been signed. Obviously, it's testing the market, considering nothing has really been solidified as of right now. He's at least listening to other people's offers, and I think that upgrading the third base position, despite how much I love Ernie Clement, is an actual thing that you should try to do, because Ernie Clement can be your 10th man in the lineup. He can just be the guy that fills in all of the off day roles, because that's what Ernie Clement is. He is literally our version, and maybe a better version of the Dodgers' Chris Taylor, and everybody knows how valuable that became come October. So I think that Ernie Clement could take that role, and that's you getting greedy. You just upgrade the position of what you thought was a strength in your previous year, and it's because guys like Ernie Clement and Miles Straw and Nathan Lucas and Tyler Heineman, you cannot expect them to have the same year they just had. Like, it just doesn't happen. There's too much of a sample size to suggest otherwise. It was great that it did happen, and maybe because of it happening, because of how close they got, they worked extra hard this offseason, and they retained some of that talent and retained some of that, ability to be able to put on, good performances. But in all likelihood, they're going to go back to being what they were, which is a bench guy, and that's okay. Yeah. It's okay to have those guys be bench guys. That's okay.
Nathan Lucas and Tyler Heineman too. It's like these were guys who were grinding in the minors for years, for almost a decade of their professional career. They didn't take this leap because they weren't trying or training as hard before. It just sort of happened. That's just sort of the variance and randomness of baseball, right? So I don't even think it's something that you can even plan to replicate, really.
No. Baseball for me is the one sport that you can't run things back and expect the same, if not better, results, right?
Correct.
In basketball, you got star players. You can run it back. I think you'll be okay.
Even them, you got to be like the top of the tier, like this Oklahoma City Thunder team, right? Like,
no doubt. Hockey, I mean, you got a great core. You're going to be there more often than not all the time. But baseball, there's peaks and valleys. People have down years. People have great years. Look at George Springer. That's a prime example, right?
Yeah.
He had a couple great years for this team, then looked like he fell off his cliff, and age-wise, it was it for him.
Bo Bichette.
It's another one as well. Injuries-wise, that was playing him. But I just used George Springer because everyone thought he was down and dead, and then he had and he won the freaking Silver Slugger for DHs last year. So you can't really bank on the team to be exactly what they were last season. If you're going to do that, you're probably going to fail. So you have to find ways to improve over a longer sample size to this team. That's why, like Cole said, Alex Bregman would be a great option. That's why Kyle Tucker's all over this team right now. It's why you need to improve.
Yeah, I think but that's kind of the long and short of it. You either upgrade at second base, or no, you can't upgrade at second base because Andres Gimenez and Bo Bichette are filling those two positions. However they choose to fill it is going to be determined at a later date. Obviously, you still have to sign Bo Bichette, but assuming you get Bo Bichette, those two guys are your middle infielders, and you can't upgrade at either one of those positions because Andres Gimenez is an everyday player, despite the fact that everybody thinks otherwise. He's going to put up 5-4 every year. You're going to start him every day. Simple as that. So third base and corner outfield is really the only two options you have at upgrading your lineup because your corner outfielders, for the guys that can't play the field, are going to have to DH. And I tried to lay it out in the previous pod that, sure, George Springer's not going to be as good as he was last year, but Vladimir Guerrero Jr. could be better than what he was last year. Anthony Santander is you'd be hard pressed to believe that he's not going to be better than what he was last year. He's probably going to play more than 50 games.
Nearly impossible.
Yeah, nearly impossible to be worse than what he was. Yeah. So there's areas where we are going to get some guys that are probably going to be a bit better. So those guys could, potentially equal out where you had so much outlier performances this year with the bench guys that we were just talking about. But George Springer, I had to look it up because I don't think we did enough justice for it because the awards happened. We haven't really done a pod since the awards officially happened. George freaking Springer finished 7th in AL MVP voting this year, which is tied for his highest finish in MVP voting in his entire career. He finished 7th in 2019 for the Houston Astros that year. So that's pretty crazy. And obviously,
top 7 as a DH is insane. I'm not sure we're going to see that too often.
Crazy.
Yeah, you're not going to see that too often. So that's insane. So
no, and that's the thing. And then that's the thing, right? You can't bank on that next year.
No, you can't.
Right.
You cannot. You cannot. This contract was looking like it was going to haunt us, and luckily George Springer made up for it. But like, he is still 37 years old next year. Like, that's not going away. That's not. This is a real thing. It probably isn't going to happen, and that's all fine. We're okay if George Springer becomes at the end of the year, a guy that's like rotationed in and out a bench guy. That's okay. Like, we're okay if that happens because George Springer has paid for his contract. So, yeah, that's what it means for the Blue Jays. Is we still need to fill other holes. Bo Bichette or someone to replace Bo Bichette's talent has to be signed. And then really anything over that, because as Rob has mentioned multiple times in previous podcasts, even if you don't grab your guy at the back end of the even if you don't replace Jeff Hoffman in this offseason, back end relievers are available in July. Like, relievers are available all year long, and because the volatility with relievers, we have guys that didn't. Jimmy Garcia wasn't even in that playoff roster, and he's going to be back at some point next year. So maybe he has a healthy year. So like, there is options. So I think it literally comes down to, if you sign Bo Bichette or Kyle Tucker, you've at least completed your offseason as to what you needed to do, and anything above that is gravy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolute gravy.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Boys, what a start to the offseason, eh? Beeb's back. Freaking Dylan Cease is a J. We still have our whole farm system. And by the way, we mentioned Ketel Marte, right? The Jays have they have some pass with the D-backs as well. Shout out Gabby, shout out Dalton Varsho. So hey,
shout out Robbie Ray.
I think
shout out Robbie Ray for Travis Bergen. What a deal that one ended up being.
I do think we should touch on the Ketel Marte stuff, just because it seems like it's picked up some heat today, and mainly because Blue Jays Center also kind of lead into it today. So I think that we would be doing ourselves, a disservice if we didn't at least touch on it. So my problem with the Ketel Marte stuff. Oh, okay. So he does have some term. I thought that Ketel Marte didn't have term, and I was like, man, the packages that these people are throwing out seems like quite the overpay, because I thought he was a free agent like in the next couple of years. So I was like, that seems like a lot for a guy that's 32 years old. Yeah, I even still think so. He is signed until 2031, so he's got term. So I get that, but he is 32 years old. I think giving up your entire farm for Ketel Marte is a bit of an overpay. If you're giving up Arjun Amala and JoJo Parker and Jake, like any of your top, if you go multiple top 5 prospects in your system, I think you're getting to the point where it's a bit of an overpay. Obviously, I would take it because prospects are prospects, and I will always lean in. I wouldn't
make that trade.
No, that's just.
I wouldn't make that trade.
Wait, hold on. Arjun Amala and JoJo Parker and another top 10 guy, you wouldn't do it?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Because my mindset is that you do at some point need assets come the deadline. And you do, like we mentioned, the Jays have always leaned towards, grabbing a bullpen or 2 arms at the deadline. And you're going to need guys like that to make those kind of moves. And if you're, just ripping apart your farm system to get a Ketel Marte, which, hey,
that's literally gutting your whole farm system.
No, right. It is.
That's literally gutting. This is what
it is. But like,
Ketel Marte is just not. He's really good. He's just not the type of guy you gut your farm system for. Like, obviously, look. Do I think it's a fair offer? I think it's fine, but I don't think the Blue Jays are in position to make a trade like that. That's my biggest issue with all these trades. I think the trade market for the Blue Jays is going to be the Andres Jimenez types. It's these small market teams that overpay these guys that you could eat some of their salary and then give up next to nothing to get. Like, that's the kind of trade I'm looking for from the Blue Jays. I'm not looking for these like big splashy give up half your farm for a guy type of trade.
I'm not looking for it either, but Ketel Marte is a 5-4 player every single year.
He's great.
He's really good. But he's also 32.
Yeah.
And again, you're gutting your whole farm system.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see where this whole thing plays out, because
I agree. I think it's an overpay, but
yes,
I'd still do it. Yeah.
It's just interesting to see, because there's not many teams that probably want to blow up their farm systems, considering where the MLB is headed in the next little bit. They're like,
that's
okay,
true. Maybe the price isn't what we're thinking. Like, sure, in a typical, 5-4 guy available on the trade block, like a Tarek Skubal, for example, you're gonna have to blow up the trade the farm system to get a Tarek Skubal. But Tarek Skubal, you're gonna get prime for the next 5 to 6 years. You're gonna get a prime Tarek Skubal.
That exact package for Tarek Skubal, I would do yesterday.
Yeah. Exactly. So
oh, shit.
That's the guy you got your farm system for.
Yeah,
that's what I'm getting at.
I was just and that's where I was headed. Is that sure, Ketel Marte isn't that, but maybe he isn't actually that. Maybe that's not what the market's suggesting. Maybe we are overcomplicating what the trade value actually is, because a 32 because James is right. Like a 32-year-old, not many teams are going to be willing to offer up the farm system for a Ketel Marte. So all of a sudden, the market just became a lot easier, because you're only competing against 3 other teams, and all 3 of you agree that this isn't worth blowing up the farm for. We'll give you one top 5 prospect and a couple top 30 guys, but we're not going to give you multiple top 5 prospects. So maybe it's actually a little less than what everybody's thinking.
It's pretty fitting that the teams that they mentioned that are interested are the Jays and the Phillies.
Yeah,
I mean, 2 teams that want that are going to pay a lot of money for players. And you're not going to hear many other teams that are going to want that, especially, like I said, going into this whole possible, lockout at some point in time.
Do you want to know what that Ketel Marte report screams of to me? It screams of Blue Jays, Phillies, your biggest rival, Yankees, your biggest rival, Dodgers, start paying up and get Ketel Marte, or else he's going to these guys. That's what it screams like to me.
Yeah, could be.
That's true.
I mean, but it might start that way, and then I don't know how many teams are going to budge, because those packages are quite high.
Here is something I wanted to confirm. According to Fangraphs, we actually have a better farm system than the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, exactly. 2 rivals that don't have great farm systems, so that the other team with good farm systems could offer more. I think that's would make sense.
Yeah. Who probably won't offer more?
Sorry?
Who probably won't offer more?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. In the end, guys, we all know this
all gamesmanship.
It's agents' ploy. Like, oh, this guy's interested. Yep. Oh, these guys are interested. Pay us more. That's why, until I see pen to paper like we saw today with Dylan Cease, I ain't getting excited about squat.
Yeah.
But fellas,
did anybody see if it was pending a physical? Because I
think it did say pending physical.
Oh, okay, because I actually haven't seen that. So
okay, well, yeah.
Is that not standard for all deals? All deals are pending physicals.
So yes, I would say 99% of the time. But a deal just got done this offseason that had no physical done.
Really?
Yeah, and it became little news. Like, people were like, "Oh my God, there was no physical done for this." I'd have to look it up, but yeah, it is standard, but the reason why I brought it up is because it being so standard, it's also cost some free agent signings. Who was it? Was it Cody Bellinger a couple of years ago? Signed with multiple teams because he kept failing the physical. Is that who it was?
Cody Bellinger?
I don't know if it was Bellinger.
No,
feels
Carlos
wrong.
Correa.
Carlos Correa. That's what it was.
Carlos
Correa signed 2 free agent deals in the same offseason. Both of them, he failed the physical, and then eventually went back to the Minnesota Twins, I believe is how it worked out. So, yeah, the physical does matter. So maybe we wait until Dylan Cease is putting on the Blue Jays uniform in a press conference.
Wow, yeah, sounds good to me. Seeing Ross shake his hand, get all the good vibes, see that stash in action. We're going to have 2 stashes on the team this year, fellas. Going to be exciting.
Dave Schneider and Dylan Cease.
Those pictures, boys, are going to feed families, aren't they? Going to be great. Spring training ones at least to start. We'll give that a little appetizer. Yeah. All right, fellas, it's the beginning of the freaking offseason. We said it off the top. The winter meetings haven't even happened yet, and the Jays have already made their one huge splash. But we can kind of feel that there's more to come with this team, and you already know where to find everybody. You'll find us here. You'll find the Blue Jay Center on Instagram. Declan's got you covered there. Big time stuff happening there. And for us, on the podcast side of things, we'll talk to you guys whenever something else drops. And we got some other stuff coming down the pipeline. So we'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you to myself, from myself, James Price, Robin Silliman, Cole Whiston, AC and Sammy behind the scenes. Appreciate you as always, boys. And as always, go Jays.
Go Jays,
baby.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Blue Jays Center on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.